Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about all things firearms policy, politics, culture, media, you name it. We're talking about it right here on Coffee with Craig. So please take a moment to like and share the program so that your friends can join in the conversation. Also, if you haven't already done so, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. You guys know they're trying to suppress our numbers. They're trying to make sure that our audience doesn't get these alerts. Now, the way to make sure that you get the alerts whenever we go live is by actually being a subscriber, being a follower, and clicking the notification button in both cases. That way you'll get alerts whenever these videos go live and you can share them with your friends. Also, would like to encourage you, if you haven't already done so, please visit fpcgear.com. That's fpcgear.com. It's a cool place to go to find all sorts of cool Pro 2A swag, t-shirts, coffee mugs, hoodies, tons of different stuff. We're always uploading new designs all the time. And the good thing is that you know that every dollar that you spend is going right back into the fight for our right to keep and bear arms. So you can support the Second Amendment and you can look good doing it. That's fpcgear.com. Well, once again, is you are no strangers to that those who seek to take our firearms, take our fundamental right to keep and bear arms away, we know that they have a very, very loose relationship with the truth. I mean, we're not just talking about just the facts. We're talking about the actual truth of what the Second Amendment is about, what the intent of the Second Amendment is, but then also just when it comes to the facts. And it is the one area that for some reason there seems to be this nobleness about sharing information that is wholly and utterly not true. I mean, they just have absolutely no problem saying complete and whole and utter lies when it comes to firearms and firearms law. Some of it comes out of ignorance, but some of it, quite frankly, just comes out of the fact that they know that they can get away with it, or at least they believe that they can get away with it. One example is none other than our former president, Mr. Barack Obama, who was recently in Brazil at a technology conference. And he was doing a Q&A, and they started talking about gun laws in these United States. And so I wanted you guys to have a chance to hear, well, what he had to say, if you haven't already heard it.
I've said this before, the most difficult day that I've had was the day that there was a shooting in a school where 20 small children were shot, as well as some teachers. And you know, my daughters were only a little bit older than these young children that had been shot, and I had to go and comfort the parents. And some of you may be aware, our gun laws in the United States don't make much sense. Anybody can buy any weapon, anytime, without much, if any, regulation. They can buy it over the internet, they can buy machine guns. And for me, having to speak to parents who had lost a child just 2 days or a day after it had happened, and not being able to assure them that that would change, that we would fix this. I couldn't bring their children back, but I couldn't even promise them that we would change the laws so this didn't happen to somebody else's children.
Well, okay, so let's get into this. First of all, there was a cheer. People started cheering when they said that you could buy, when he started saying you could buy any firearm anywhere, anytime. There was a cheer that started to happen. And I'm wondering if, first of all, if that was just the people that are there in Brazil wishing that they had the ability to purchase firearms, because they can't purchase anything they want anytime. They don't have, in Brazil, they don't have a fundamental right to keep and bear arms. In fact, in most countries, they do not have, well, let me clarify. their government suppresses their fundamental human right to defend themselves. So they have the right, they just, their government suppresses their ability to be able to exercise that right. But there were a number of lies, and just once again, just out and outright lies that were told in that one little short clip by the former president. And I just thought I would just take a moment and, well, just kind of reveal some of those lies. Now, before we get into the lies, there was in fact one truth that he told, and I wanted to make sure that we made it a point to hit on that truth. Okay, so he starts off, quite frankly, with the basic statement that, well, you know what, our gun laws are, well, they're slightly confusing. Yes, our gun laws actually here in these United States, quite frankly, don't make a lot of sense. I want you to think about some of the things that we do here in the United States in terms of our gun laws, and what that in fact means. Let's take for example, background checks. All right, we have this big push right now for universal background checks. Yet, crime statistics have already shown that when they retrieve a firearm from the scene of a crime or that's used in a crime, 96% of the time, the firearm is not used by the person who owned it. Right? So, if you're trying to catch the person who committed the crime, what good does that do if the firearm is either stolen or is imported? If it's not purchased if it was purchased illegal, if it was obtained illegally, what good exactly is that going to do to try and find out who was the person who purchased the firearm? I can tell you what good it does. Absolutely nothing. Let's also look at the fact that they're going after firearms that are not used in crimes, right? We look at their quote unquote assault weapons ban. They're not assault weapons. I know some of you get mad when I use that term, but I'm just going to use it because that's what they call it. But they want to ban semi-automatic center fire rifles with detachable magazines. But they're used in about 3% of all gun crime. 3%. They represent a small. You're not even used in the majority of mass shootings. They're definitely not used in the majority of most suicides, or in any suicides as far as I haven't seen statistics in terms of, AR-15s being used by people to take their own lives. I have to be honest. I doubt it. Common sense is just telling me that probably isn't going to work. But the fact is that they're banning guns that are not used in crimes. The other thing that they're doing is pushing storage laws that actually require you to make your firearm inoperable even once you have it under lock and key. Now, what sense does that make? Someone breaks into your home and you have the ammunition stored in one place and you have the firearm stored in another. And now you've got to get access to your firearm in order to defend yourself or your family's life. So, yeah, no, it's quite understandable, or at least we recognize wholly and fully that our gun laws make absolutely no sense. So, Mr. President, I agree with you on that. Now, the laws that you believe don't make sense, Mr. President, is because you are ignorant as to firearms technology, firearms law. You don't know what you're talking about. That's why they don't make sense to you, Mr. President. The fact that we don't have certain laws in place that you would like to see in place is because, Mr. President, on this issue, you are ignorant. And I feel okay saying that. I feel okay saying that the president, because we're all ignorant about something. And in this particular case, he is ignorant when it comes to firearms law. Now, let's move on to the lies, okay? So let's start with lie number one. Lie number one is basically the fact that any firearm can be purchased. Any firearm can be purchased. Now, first of all, let's break this one down. All right, so first of all, understanding the difference between semi-automatic and automatic. So when you talk about an assault rifle, generally what they're referring to are automatic rifles that are largely reserved for military, for law enforcement. And in few cases, you can actually purchase them if you are a firearms retailer, or if you're a gunsmith. There's certain ramifications. But here's the thing. if you can purchase it, I will just tell you this. There are people who I know who have been firearms retailers, who've had FFLs for years, who haven't been able to get an assault weapons, who haven't been able to get themselves in a position where they are able to legally purchase. So I'm telling you this to tell you that no, you cannot just purchase any firearm. That is a holy lie. First of all, it's a whole out and outright lie. The other thing is that there are some people who just cannot purchase firearms, right? And that kind of gets us into lie number two. So, lie number two. I'm sorry, thinking lie number three. Lie number two is that basically that you can purchase firearms anytime. Now, understand that there are requirements in various places where you have background check requirements, which can take a period of time. Also understand that there are laws relating to waiting periods in many places. So yeah, no, the idea that you can purchase a firearm anytime. It also, by the way, it makes it sound like, you can just, buy a firearm and it'll automatically be shipped to your house. And that, by the way, folks, is just not the case. They also want to make it sound like you can purchase a firearm from another state and have it shipped to your house. And once again, that is against the law. That is just not the case. If you purchase a firearm out of state, it has to be shipped unless you have a federal firearms license. Unless you have a federal firearm, and you are a federal firearms licensee, that firearm has got to be shipped to someone who does. And then you've got to comply with all of the state laws relating to purchasing a firearm. That firearm has to be legal in that state. And you have to go through all of the appropriate things, whether it's a background check or a waiting period. So yeah, that is just not the case. But that gets us once again into lie number three. And this is the big one. And that is that where he said basically firearms can be purchased with few, if any, regulations. And I'm sorry, but once again, no, that is just not the case, Mr. President. That is a lie. There are restrictions in terms of the firearms that you can purchase. And even in some cases with certain specialty firearms, there's additional licenses, taxes, fees. There's a National Firearms Act. Once again, there's all of these various different things that are in place that prevent individuals or that make it harder, even more regulations, that make it more difficult for individuals to be able to purchase certain firearms and certain firearm accessories. So you can't just say that, Mr. President, unless you're doing so illegally. Now, I'm sure that you are, Mr. President, that you've hung around with your fair share of criminals. Maybe that's the case. But that's just not the case. For people who believe that there are no firearms regulations here in the United States, that is a position that is just wholly based on ignorance. Or, once again, just a desire to lie. The other thing is, once again, when it comes to purchasing a firearm online. Now, I want to be clear. Yes, you can purchase a firearm online, but you're not really purchasing a firearm online. You're purchasing it, and then it's shipped to an FFL, where, once again, you have to go through and comply with all of the laws in your state. So no, you cannot. Once again, so you cannot purchase if a particular firearm is illegal in your state. No, you cannot. You wouldn't be able to do it. If you are purchasing the firearm, if you are purchasing the firearm, yes, you're going to have to go through a background check. All right, all of the various state laws apply. So no, and once again, he wants to make it sound like, well, I can buy it like I do on Amazon, and a drone will drop it off at my house. Yeah, no. That's just not how it works. But hey, we all know you don't care about the truth, Mr. President. All right. And then there's this one, the one relating to lie number 5, the one relating to machine guns, that anyone can purchase a machine gun. Once again, we've already gone through this. And the thing that's frustrating about this particular one is because he's confusing, or at least is trying to conflate the difference between a semi-automatic rifle with an automatic rifle. He's trying to conflate firearms that are specifically designed for, marketed to individuals and citizens and consumers with firearms that are utilized that are utilized by the military and exclusive only to the military and to law enforcement because, well, they're just trying to make it scarier. They're just trying to they want you to believe that a semi-automatic rifle is the same thing as an automatic rifle. Because once again, they are trying to scare you. They're trying to scare people into believing that, hey, if I'm not against this, well, then something must be odd about me. But see, the thing that was even stranger about this whole particular thing was when you consider who he was talking to. I mean, once again, this was a discussion that was taking place in Brazil, right? So let's take a look at Brazil's numbers when it comes to firearms. All right. First of all, 63,800 and should be 80 murders took place in Brazil in 2017. Those are the last numbers that they had publicly. That's 175 murders per day. Overwhelming majority of them were via firearm. Their murder rate is 30.8 people per 100,000. It is one of the highest, if not the highest, in the entire world. All right? This is the country that he's speaking at. They have a higher murder rate in the U.S. They have a higher murder rate with firearms than they do even than the United States of America. Now, that's important to understand because here he is talking to them in Brazil and talking about how our firearms laws don't make sense. Yet they have many of the restrictions that he would like to see us have here in these United States exist in Brazil. And those are their numbers. That's what their murder rate is like there in Brazil. Why do you think in the very beginning when he starts talking about people being able to purchase whatever they need or whatever they want, why do you think they cheered? Because they want to be able to defend themselves. What a shock that people want to exercise a fundamental right to be able to defend themselves. And Mr. President or Mr. Former President, you just don't get it. Why? Because once again, you are ignorant, Mr. President. Look, it's kind of funny, you know. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll notice that I don't talk about a lot of things that I have absolutely no knowledge about. I don't do a lot of debating on energy policy. I don't do a lot of debating on medical billing or medical or healthcare policy. I try to focus on things that I know, right? And how things affect me, right? I try not to get into talking about things about which I am ignorant. Because I figure if I'm going to offer an opinion, it ought to be an informed opinion. And even then, even if I do venture into, I'm really kind of looking for information. I'm trying to find and learn more. But what I'm not trying to do is trying to set and influence policy out of ignorance. But that seems to be okay with the anti-gun left. They seem to be wholly okay with the idea that, yeah, I want to influence policy even though I do not know what I am talking about. Because, hey, I have a Facebook page. Therefore, I must know something. And I feel good about what I know, even though what I know really isn't much. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. I very much appreciate you guys tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing this program and telling your friends about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.